Who are the players you should be targeting in fantasy football DFS for the NFL divisional playoffs? Who should you look at for FanDuel cash games, DraftKings tournaments, and your price picks fix of the week? It's time to break it down right here as we close the week on Lineup Friday, only on Locked On Fantasy Football.
Are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL and fantasy football for sportingnews.com. Come to the site, you can get all the picks and breakdowns and everything you want of the divisional playoff games. Here we have a doubleheader on Saturday, a doubleheader on Sunday. We'll have the number one seeds in action there, the Eagles hosting the Giants, and then the Chiefs hosting the Jaguars. Then we'll close with the marquee matchups there in the AFC and NFC, with the Bills hosting the Bengals and the 49ers hosting the Cowboys. So a lot of great action this weekend. We thought Wild Card weekend was exciting from the Saturday opener all the way through Monday night with the Cowboys winning. This weekend should be even more spectacular, even with two less games on the slate here. So really looking forward to these games here from a reality perspective, fantasy football as well. And we've given you the breakdown of how the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and the streaming defenses look like they'll play this week based on the matchups and things we expect to go right or wrong. Now it's time to put that all in a blender, spit it out into DFS numbers here that we can look at. So we're going to look at the best price point values, return on investment potential there for FanDuel cash games, whether we're playing the Saturday main slate with the two games or the Sunday main slate. And same thing, we'll do that with DraftKings tournaments. And then the price picks of the weekend, just looking at the entire slate and picking out the yardage totals that we want to go more for with our price picks projections this week. So a lot to come on today's show. We'll get into it. Thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. We're free and available to you on all platforms. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's all caps. This episode brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Okay, let's see who we want to employ in our lineups here for the main slate, whether we're playing a FanDuel cash games or DraftKings tournaments for the Saturday two games. So we have, again, Chiefs, Jaguars, and Eagles, Giants. So let's start at quarterback, where we want to go. In cash games, based on his value in relation to Jalen Hurts at 9,000, Patrick Mahomes at 9,200. So paying up all the way for Patrick Mahomes makes a lot of sense. In cash game formats, make sure you get the high floor as well as the high ceiling locked up here. And again, I would consider Hurts, but there's not much savings between Mahomes and Hurts. So I want to go up a little bit more. Lock it up with the MVP frontrunner over Hurts and other quarterbacks that are playing in this round. So 9,200. Look, it's a steep price to pay, but we'll adjust here at other positions and work in our lineup here. But definitely Patrick Mahomes worth it in cash games because I feel the most safe about his performance this week among all the other quarterbacks. All right, pivoting when we go to DraftKings, we want to go the other direction. If Mahomes is a safe pick, who's the Valdo pick? It's the quarterback lining up on the other side. Now, why we're not looking at the Giants or Eagles, these defenses can be tough on the pass. Well, we know the Chiefs are not very good against the pass. They've got young cornerbacks. Their pass rush can be inconsistent. Trevor Lawrence, even with the big interception game last week, had the 4 touchdown passes. So I really like him with the volume to produce. So 6,000 for Trevor Lawrence, a very nice price. So we're going to the same game, Chiefs-Jaguars. We'll be tapping into this game quite a bit when we look at the Saturday action here for the values in DFS. But Mahomes, Lawrence, a good place to start there with our quarterbacks. And again, we want to avoid maybe the Hurts-Jones situation. Hurts just not savings enough over Mahomes, and Jones not saving enough for Lawrence. So that's where it lines up with those two quarterbacks. All right, at running back for FanDuel cash games, I feel safest about Miles Sanders. This Giants running defense is pretty bad here. I don't want to pay up all the way for Saquon Barkley. We'll go for his Penn State successor in the backfield, Miles Sanders, a nice price there. So if we're going to pay up for Mahomes, we got to adjust a little bit running back. So we're going to go to 7,200 for Miles Sanders as our choice there. Now, Travis Etienne is a crossover choice. He's getting involved more in the pass game. He averages more than 5 yards a carry. So when you look at Etienne, 6,800 there on FanDuel, very nice price in relation to the field where I'm not paying up for Barkley, but I'm also going to get a high volume back here. So Sanders I like because of the matchup, and he can explode for multiple touchdowns. I feel like he has a high floor of at least 60 yards rushing in a score. Etienne seems like in that same range where he can run for 100, catch a few passes, and you're sitting pretty there at 6,800. So Miles Sanders, Travis Etienne are the choices there. Etienne carries over into DraftKings tournaments as the expensive guy that I want to look at, 6,400 there on top. So you could go to Barkley there if you're saving a little bit of money on Trevor Lawrence and our other running back here. But Etienne, definitely a nice choice to consider in that format here. As the Eagles can tighten up against the run, where I think the Chiefs are pretty leaky against run and pass. And Etienne, game script independent. If they're trailing, they're going to get Etienne the ball still. We saw that last week against the Chargers. On the other side, I like the running back Isaiah Pacheco, 5,500. I think there's a good chance Pacheco scores. He gets high volume here. You can run on the Jaguars. I know the Chargers didn't do that all that effectively, but look at the Chiefs. They're going to spread things around in the pass game. Isaiah Pacheco kind of playing closer in the second half. So I like that number for Pacheco, cheaper than Jerick McKinnon by far, 5,500, and not as touchdown dependent here because he could reel off a 100-yard game easily and catch a few passes, and you're sitting pretty with Pacheco's value in that format. All right, let's go to wide receiver and cash games. I want to start with the Christian Kirk at 7,600. He's going to be involved quite a bit, we know, for Lawrence. So Lawrence, Etienne, and Kirk, kind of the core of what we're going to do in this matchup as much as possible. I also like Zay Jones on the outside against these inexperienced corners at 6,500. So that's where I would go in cash games, two high floor plays in that same game. There's not a lot of dazzling wide receivers outside of the Eagles and Jaguars to look at this week. So definitely getting a piece of the Jaguars twice makes a lot of sense. In between, we have Devonta Smith at a very nice price at 7,400. We really like his potential in this matchup against the Giants. If they try to contain A.J. Brown a little bit or double team him, Smith should see things open up. So he's right in between. So Kirk at 7,600, Smith at 74, and Jones at 6,500, Zay Jones from the Jaguars. Now, if we like Smith in this format, if we like a guy that can potentially explode and fight the double teams, it's A.J. Brown. So 7,600 DraftKings, that's a nice price in relation to the field, a little bit better than we have with Brown on FanDuel. So we're going there. We're going back to Christian Kirk at 6,000. I think he's a discount in relation to where he was on FanDuel to the rest of the players here. So like Christian Kirk quite a bit. So I don't want to invest in two receivers here on the DraftKings tournament because you want to have the upside there where you're not sharing things and trying to get the high floor here. You're going for the high ceiling. Therefore, you have to go for more individual receivers here. So we have Brown at 7,600, Kirk at 6,000. I'm going at Kadarius Toney is the pivot here, 4,100. I think he could have a big game this week. The Jaguars struggle with his type of receiver quite a bit. Keenan Allen had a lot of success, a little slot guy with some speed and can turn around and make key plays for them. So I do like Toney being unlocked and unleashed a little bit more at 4,100. Very nice price for Toney in tournaments, but I wouldn't play him in cash games. We know all the Chiefs receivers are rather volatile to think about as a play. Dallas Goedert is the tight end we're circling, mainly because we don't want to pay up for Travis Kelce, and we want still a tight end with a great matchup. We saw T.J. Hawkinson really destroy the Giants last week. Goddard has that same potential working in the middle of the field in between Brown and Smith. So I'm going there. Again, Kelce is appealing, but you got to pay a lot, and you're limited to the other positions. Dallas Goedert, 6,300 on FanDuel, 4,500 on DraftKings. That's a very good return on investment where I don't have to go too cheap, and I don't like Evan Ingram as much this week. So I think Goddard gets a little bit return there behind Kelce that I'm looking at, and we really can't look at Daniel Bellinger at all this week. So when you look at that, Dallas Goedert comes in with a solid sweet spot there to invest in tight end. Now, our defense has to be the Chiefs. I think you look at the Eagles, you can pay up for them against the Giants, but just under them is the Chiefs at 4,200, 3,100. Now, Trevor Lawrence has high volume. We saw last week he was productive in fantasy, but also had those 4 interceptions in the first half and potential for some sacks there. So I do like the Chiefs because of the Jaguars dropping back at high volume here with Lawrence to have some opportunities to make plays in that game. All right, there you have it. There's a look at the Saturday slate there for FanDuel and DraftKings. We'll get into the Sunday main slate there for what we think of those two games and where you want to invest your DFS bucks. And then we'll look at the picks of the week. So we'll get deep there as we usually do, go 12 deep for you. So a dozen to pick from, and we'll get into that in our final segment there. We told you at the top, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by the best place that you can expect to get your best hires here for your small business. That is LinkedIn Jobs. And as a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in the year 2023 all depends on the team members you surround yourself with. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. At LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. They go beyond resume data by using insights from your job posts, company, and their 875 million member profiles to put your post in front of the most qualified candidates, identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs, and connect them with them fast and for free. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, all on one platform. Really, we work in a small team at Sporting News. The Locked On Network has also got a lot of great members. We've assembled the best team, and you want to turn to the place that's going to help you do that. And that's LinkedIn Jobs. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, it is time to continue the show here on Locked On Fantasy Football. We're going to look at the Sunday values, Sunday values for DFS. Before we do that, thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. Subscribe to the Locked On NFL podcast and get daily conversation on the biggest NFL stories, including the playoffs, plus in-depth analysis on the biggest games and NFL key predictions every Friday. Monday, local insiders cover the weekend with game-to-game episodes. Locked On NFL, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Before we get into what we expect from the Bengals and Bills and the Cowboys 49ers on Sunday, just a little programming reminder, we will get in some news and notes next week. So we'll have some reactions first from these divisional playoff games on Monday. Then we'll get news and notes. A lot of different changes here. We have 10 offensive coordinators on the way out here. We also have defenses switching up, teams looking for head coaches, quarterback carousel beginning. So we'll catch you up with the news and notes there early next week after we have the reactions on Monday. We'll go Tuesday, Wednesday around the AFC and the NFC. Then we'll put our attention into the two games, the conference championship. So we'll devote a Thursday and a Friday show, comprehensive look at that, looking at the players and the DFS and all that good stuff. So a double dose of DFS as well as matchups for you next week on top of catching up with the news and notes on the teams not in the playoffs here in 2023. So a lot of good stuff coming, good stuff still on the show. Let's look at our FanDuel pick for our quarterback for the Sunday slate. It's Brock Purdy, 7,000. He keeps getting it done with a high floor. He's a nice price there ahead of what we're looking at with getting to the backup quarterback. So really, you look at it, we know you're going to have to pay a lot for Joe Burrow, Josh Allen there. And in relation to Dak Prescott, I like Purdy in cash games because he's just kind of high floor and is going to be very decent. Now, if we go to DraftKings tournaments, I'm going with Dak Prescott because, again, they're going to have to throw quite a bit. This 49ers run defense is nasty. The 49ers could have a big lead here. So if you're looking for a massive game, potentially, it's from Prescott. He's coming off a massive game, 4 TDs through the air, 1 on the ground here. So Dak looking pretty sharp here going into this game. They're going to have high volume for Dak. So 6,100 for him as the ceiling play, as Purdy is the floor play on FanDuel. All right, let's go to running backs we want to invest in. I think with FanDuel, there's no doubt about it. Cash games, we want to go for the guy that we can trust the most. That's Christian McCaffrey, 9,200. We're paying up for him, so we got to save and find a decent value on the lower end here. So McCaffrey, I think, can get a return on investment. If he scores a touchdown, you're really looking good here for your guy with the Christian McCaffrey with that value. So 9,200 there. And so with the lesser one, we have to go with James Cook at 5,800. Cook got involved well last week. He scored a touchdown against the Dolphins. I think they'll involve the rookie out of Georgia, a little bit more even so this week. So I do like that price here for Dalvin Cook, 5,800, pivoting off McCaffrey in FanDuel cash game formats. Now, we can't go as high for McCaffrey, and we need to do a little bit of a pivot. Who can have a big game here that may be a contrarian play? It's Tony Pollard. We're going to look at the 49ers run defense being tough, but Pollard can run on the outside, be effective that way, also have some good usage in the passing game. So when you look at that, 6,100 for Tony Pollard, it gives you a little bit of a pivot. If you want to spend a little bit more money at wide receiver here, that allows that as well. So Tony Pollard, 6,100 on DraftKings. And then also pair him with James Cook, 4,800. He's a good tournament and cash game player here because I think he's going to get more involved than we think. He also could explode beyond Devin Singletary. He's also a guy that would catch passes in such a matchup. The Bengals can be vulnerable to backs that way. We saw the dual threat of J.K. Dobbins be very effective against Cincinnati last week. So looking at that, James Cook is a very good target. I don't want to invest in Devin Singletary when the touches could be the same here. And I'm not going to Ezekiel Elliott. So it makes sense whether you're looking at McCaffrey or Pollard for your lead back to complement them with Cook. All right, let's go to the choices here at wide receiver. T. Higgins, I think he's going to continue to have a good matchup here against the Bills away from their top corner, Kadarius White. So T. Higgins should be involved here, 7,000. I just like the way these receivers are responding well to Joe Burrow. They came through last year in the playoffs. They'll move around Higgins as well. They can do that with Jamar Chase into the slot. So we're looking for a high floor, and I think T. Higgins is going to provide that at 7,000. Brandon Ayuk, I think, is going to be rather involved as well. Trayvon Diggs is going to try to contain Deebo Samuel, but they're really weak at the second corner. So I like Brandon Ayuk coming off the 1,000-yard season. Quiet game against the Seahawks last week in a tougher matchup. I think he comes through here at 6,800. And then Gabe Davis, going with him at 6,600. I think he'll get involved there quite a bit, just playing off Stephon Diggs. So we're going to all the number one receivers here, and going away from them at number two. But Higgins, Ayuk, and Davis are not the usual number two receivers here. So I'm going there because if I want to pay up for McCaffrey, we got to consider that with these wide receivers and save a little bit of money here. Now, if we're going for the different pivot to Pollard there on DraftKings, you can go invest in the top receivers. So I like Jamar Chase at 7,800, Deebo Samuel at 5,900. Those prices are nice for lead receivers here. So like Chase a little bit more than Stephon Diggs here this week. I think he's going to act more like the alpha and dominate for the most part. You'll have Higgins also play well. So I do like Chase, Higgins, and Boyd, and they do have Boyd at 4,000. So that's a very good value to me. I think they're going to work the slot well with the Chase and Higgins also being productive there. So Boyd comes in at 4,000 there. So I just think Chase is going to be more productive than Diggs. I do like the Bengals to beat the Bills. I think Chase plays a big role in that, as well as Boyd and Higgins. So that's why I'm going Chase and Boyd here in tournaments. And I also like Deebo Samuel at 5,900, coming off a big game, off making a big play against the Seahawks. I think he'll still be involved there. So I think that's the more volatility there with Chase and Samuel and Boyd. Higgs, Ayuk, and Davis safer. That's why we're going there in cash games versus tournaments. Now, tight end, George Kittle, I wouldn't mind paying up for him. It's a good stack with Brock Purdy. He has great connection there. And I know the Cowboys have been pretty good against the tight end, but Kittle is a different type of tight end to handle here. And if they try to shadow Deebo a little bit with Diggs, that's going to open it up for both Ayuk and Kittle here. So 7,100, don't mind paying up for him. In the cash game formats, in the tournament formats is easy here. To go to Dawson Knox, he's a scoring machine here of late. The Bengals can give up numbers to the tight end, so we like that. So again, George Kittle going up to pay up to him, 7,100, and staying with the reasonable price, Dawson Knox at 3,800 on DraftKings. And then looking at the defense, I'm going to just lock into the Bengals. They're the lowest priced defense on the board. We saw Josh Allen and the Bills turn over the ball quite a bit last week, so that can come into play. And the Bengals just made a big defensive touchdown. So 3,400 on FanDuel, 2,400 on DraftKings for the Bengals defense. That's where we're targeting that value here, and it really opens up the rest with our team. So don't want to invest too much. I think we can get some decent return from that 3,400 and 2,400 from Cincinnati's D against a suddenly sloppy, turnover-prone Josh Allen. All right, we'll get into our PrizePicks picks of the week. We got a dozen for you to choose from, as you need to pick 2 to 6 players to get into that. So we will have that to close the show here on Locked On Fantasy Football. Looking for a delicious treat, but don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal and your goal is probably to eat a little healthier this year. If you're like me, just want to eat healthier, but don't want to compromise taste, then man, I've got just the thing for you. You got to try Built. With Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious. You won't think they're good for you. They're bars that are perfect for your New Year's resolution. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. They come in unbelievable flavors such as churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. What's even better that they're healthy for you, only 30 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein packed into a Built Bar. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box of Built Bars. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club as well. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, coconut puffs. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with their hit flavors, brownie, batter, and churro. You can thank me later. So check it out. Built Bars now available at Walmart and Sam's Club as well as Built.com. Check it out, Built Bars for the new year to get it right with the ultimate delicious protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Okay, let's close the show with our prize picks of the week. We did very well. We missed a couple last week, related mostly to Austin Eckler. We were disappointed in the usage here. Probably contributed to the Chargers' loss and Joe Lombardi being let go as the offensive coordinator. So we're going to hope for everyone having a lot of success this week based on our picks. Let's do it. Our quarterback, we have 3 picks this week. Trevor Lawrence, 245.5 is the projection of PrizePicks for his passing yards. We're going more. That's how we played here. We always go for the more. It's a little bit easier for us to navigate there because it's a threshold we think we can hit with these quarterbacks. So Trevor Lawrence, 245.5, high volume opposite Mahomes. I think that number is a little bit low. Same thing with Dak Prescott. He's going to have to throw a ton opposite the 49ers explosive offense. 250.5 is pretty conservative number for him there with the projection. So we're going above that as well. So 245.5, 250.5. There's actually a lower number that we also like, 239.5 for Brock Purdy. It's not so easy to just pound the ball on the Cowboys, but I think Purdy can just shoot over that number. It's not going to require a lot to get to 240 passing yards against the Cowboys there. So I think it's going to be a balanced, explosive attack for San Francisco. So 239.5. So attacking all numbers, they're right below 251 for our passing yard prize picks projections here for more with that yardage. Now let's go to rushing yardage. Isaiah Pacheco, we like playing closer, and he's closer to what we want there at 55.5. That's a really low number. So we're going to take the more on the rushing yards for Isaiah Pacheco. That's a really fun number. I like that. Under 60, we're going to take it for him and more for Isaiah Pacheco. Jalen Hurts is also pretty reasonable here at 50.5 is his PrizePicks projection. So like that, also hitting more for Jalen Hurts. I think he'll be involved more as a runner this week as he feels healthy with that shoulder. Run around, not as much pain. So like that at 50.5. Christian McCaffrey destroyed this number last week, 65.5 rushing yards. He goes more. I get it, the dual threat, and could get a lot of yards from scrimmage as an extension of the running game against the Cowboys, but 65.5, just a little too low for me. So I'm going more with McCaffrey on the PrizePicks projection for that. Dalvin Cook did not come through for us last week, but we think his brother James will 39.5 here. Really like that number there. It's pretty low. He just was right around that number against the Dolphins last week. I think he'll be a little bit more involved this week. So 39.5 for James Cook for the rushing yard. So notice we didn't attack any big numbers here. We just want to be a little bit more comfortable in the sweet spot. And being under 70 for all these guys with the more is a really nice spot for PrizePicks. All right, let's go to our wide receiver picks. Christian Kirk, we liked a lot here. He's only at 62.5. We've had a lot of success with Christian Kirk as a PrizePicks picks with more than his projections, so we're going there this week at 62.5. Kadarius Toney, he's going to do more damage than 32.5. So I do love this number. It's pretty low. I think Toney is going to get involved a little bit more coming off the bye. He's their most dynamic wide receiver at this stage, even ahead of the veteran Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. So 32.5 more on Kadarius Toney. We explained how much we like Devonta Smith working away from A.J. Brown. Even if Brown has a big game, I think Smith can clear more than 62.5 receiving yards, a nice number there. Tony Pollard, they're going to get him involved this week quite a bit, the Cowboys, to try to slow things down against the 49ers. But it's hard to run on the tackles there, and also on the outside, they've got some speed there. So 19.5 is the number for Tony Pollard for receiving yards there as a PrizePicks projection. We're going more there. I think he gets around 25 to 30 and clears that number pretty comfortably here this week. And then you look at Brandon Ayuk, 54.5 as well for his number. That's pretty low. So again, we're going low. No PrizePicks projection above 70 here. So we're going Brandon Ayuk more than 54.5 receiving yards there against the Cowboys. So good stuff all around here. So attack those low numbers. They're sometimes better there for you than the big numbers. We have come through with more on the PrizePicks projection for the bigger numbers for the stars, but we want to find the number. That's what we're looking for versus the player, the talent, and the matchup. We're looking for the number that has a little bit of a discrepancy that we can go after. So those are the 12 that we picked for PrizePicks. Picking, and you just pick 2 to 6 players, and you can win up to 10 times your money doing that at PrizePicks.com. So check it out. We'll have a review of that. We'll have a review of the divisional playoff games on Monday for you again. And then we'll turn it to some AFC and NFC news and notes to catch you up on things on the early part of the off season next week. And we'll have the complete breakdown as well for you of the conference championship games, no matter what the matchups are there. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first of the day. Now, for your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL podcast. Bring you local insights you love to national spotlight with daily conversations of the biggest NFL stories, including the divisional playoffs. Locked On NFL, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. For Locked On Fantasy Football, this has been Vinnie Iyer. Good luck in all your mini fantasy football playoff seasonal leagues, as well as DFS here on Saturday and Sunday. We'll catch you on Monday to react to it all here on Locked On Fantasy Football.